Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. This is the show where between my guest interviews with subject matter experts and topic-specific deep dives, the aim is to arm you with actionable insights and information on how to prioritize your metabolic health and improve your overall health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Duplessis. My guest today is Mr. Colin Walke, a man who I've been connected with on social media for many years and have shared many things in common with regard to dietary lifestyle change and our approach to metabolic health. And that's why I've asked him to come onto the podcast today, because I know he has some great wisdom and great value that he can share with you. Colin, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Colin, for the audience, can you just give us a brief background to yourself, who you are, where you've come from, what you do?
Yeah, I'm a transplanted Canadian. I live here in the UK, grew up in Canada. I'm a teacher and a coach and sort of split my time between the two. Couple of kids, married, house, the whole nine yards. And yeah, I kind of, well, I'm just trying to do the best I can with the last 2,000 weeks of my life. So it's
Yeah, no, good
yeah.
stuff. No, that's brilliant. Thank you, Colin. So you and I have obviously been connected on social media for ages, and we have a fairly good understanding of where we each stand. But for the audience's benefit, what does metabolic health mean to you? And what do you do on a day-to-day basis to look after your own?
Yeah, so I kind of came to metabolic health quite a roundabout way. I grew up with undiagnosed celiac disease, and so a lot of yeah, just difficulty growing up, right? Sort of ADHD, undiagnosed, and then it turns out, oh hey, look, ADHD. Oh, you're depressed as well. Oh my God. Oh,
Mm,
and then I kind of I think the culture around the whole thing like that when back in the 90s was sort of like because the Human Genome Project was sort of in full swing, and I think everybody was like, "Oh, it's genetic, it's genetic,"
mm,
and I kind of bought that line, and kind of resigned myself to thinking, "Oh, I'm just a depressed kind of guy. It's my genes. I've just got ADHD. It's just my genes,"
mhm.
and became more and more dissatisfied with that, and just sort of health deteriorated. I tried, bodybuilding when I was younger and had a show and place last. And, it just sort of constantly trying to fix this just general malaise, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I came across a guy named Rob Wolf, who
Yes.
I'm sure everybody knows.
Yeah.
And Rob's amazing. He's like, he's not a guru, but if you wanted to have a guru, he'd be the right guru to have because
Mm,
he's got this take of, he's like very, very evidence based, but also from a framework of like, we're evolved, we're an evolved creature that has an ancestral time that's it's millions of years long. And
This episode is brought to you thanks to my work as a Zinzino independent partner. To find out more about Zinzino's product offering within test-based personalized nutrition, or to find out about how to join as an independent partner yourself and build a revenue stream in helping others take the guesswork out of their personal health journeys, please stay tuned because I'll be sharing information later in this episode.
it's weird for an animal to be unhealthy in the wild. You don't see depression, you don't see ADHD and whatever in the wild. Why aren't animals fat? Don't they?
Mm,
And I'm not really exactly sure why it took me so long for the penny to drop, because I did a degree in ecology and a lot of anthropology in there. Spent a long time trying to fix myself with veganism. and got sicker and sicker. And like, why isn't it working? Oh, you're not balancing your grains and your legumes properly, and you need,
Right. Yeah.
um, you know, there is even some stuff like, oh, maybe I'm just not spiritual enough to be like, um, and and so, that's that sort of like, I kind of guess it kind of came to a head when I was like, I just got really sick.
Mm.
And there was like brutal depression, and uh, people were worried that I was gonna just not be there months from now or whatever. And
Yeah.
I kind of got tired of that, and so jumped into Rob Wolf's world. And he's like, we never had any of this processed stuff. We never had these grains and legumes and things. And then along comes, civilization,
Mm.
and uh and then we start to see all these diseases popping up, and like stature shrinks, and
Yeah.
you start to see dental caries, and it just, wait, hold on, maybe maybe I'm not genetically broken,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe. And so I started the paleo thing, and like, oh wow, I don't hurt anymore. And I remember the first time that I ate meat in years. My friends were like, "Dude, you just need a steak," and these were
That,
just college kids,
yeah.
so like, and they were like, "Just come with us." And I and it's I mean, I've heard the story from loads of people, but like, I had a steak and I didn't hurt, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What the hell's that?"
How
like
good was that
I
first steak?
thought, yeah, the first steak, and it's just like, wow, there's no pain. And I feel good. That's okay. And so I kind of ran with that, and it was, like, good carbs, like sweet potatoes, and
Mm. Mm.
um, and I got better. A lot of my eczema cleared up, and I stopped bleeding around my eyes, which was nice. And because bleeding around your eyes really
Yeah, that
is a
can be
real,
fun.
it's real,
Did it
real.
bleed into the eye? I asked because I did a lot of fighting in my youth, and blood in the eye, like one, you lose your vision, you go blurry
Yeah.
and blind, and it stings like a bastard.
Yes. Yeah. And it was just like this, like just eczema. Like I
Mm.
looked like a raccoon. And it would, it would bleed into my eye and stuff sometimes, and
Oh,
I'm just like,
yeah, that's not.
why?
Yeah,
Uh,
I've at
and
least
it,
done something to earn it. Like someone's hit
yeah,
me in the face. So,
no one ever hit me. And it just sort of, it went from there, and it was like, all right, well, I'm, picking along here, and followed Rob's work for years, and then um, kept thinking that I had to have fiber, and
mm,
kept having to, like, I gotta do fasting a little bit, fix my metabolic um, flexibility, and I could do 3-day fast, I could do 5-day fast, I could do intermittent fasting, alternate day. That all seemed to be fine, and I felt better when I did it. So I tried doing more, and then shrink a little bit, and um, then how do I like keep the eczema and the depression away and not actually shrink? Because I hate being under 200 pounds. It throws me. I don't know what it
how
is,
tall
but
are
I
you?
get. I'm 5'7".
Ah, we're exactly the same height, and I run
Yeah,
around at
yeah.
like just over
Similar,
two,
similar size.
220 pounds. And yeah, and
Yeah,
I probably need to get down closer to 200, just for
yeah.
surfing. I'll try to surf today, and yeah, being bulky and muscular is not conducive to surfing
We're
well.
we're good like bricks, right?
Yes, yeah, I'm very good at jiu-jitsu and I can squash people.
Yeah.
But yeah, surfing needs you to be
Um,
maybe a little, yeah, a little bit more slender, a little bit more agile.
yeah, I've taken up climbing again, rock climbing, and
Nice.
that's yeah, so that's proving equally challenging, because I'm like,
There's a bit
I've
more
got
of you to
like
hold.
70 pounds, 70 kilos of grip strength, and like, but I'm 97 kilos, so like
Yeah.
that's, but
But
yeah, like, I think. I kind of went that direction, and then I started like I was feeling better,
Mm.
and I worked out that like the first sign that I've had a gluten exposure was that I'd have suicidal ideation, and it was like I
Okay.
wasn't depressed, I wasn't sad, I didn't dislike my life. I mean, I've got a wonderful life. I love what I do, but if I have gluten, I think about killing myself, and it's crystal clear. It's incredible.
That's very
Um,
interesting.
yeah, just absolutely fascinating. And I thought I was, I thought it was total bullshit because, like, just kind of my own experience, and then I started to hear about like, Georgia Ede and
Mm.
Chris Palmer uh, and I like the sound of Sean Baker when he was on Rogan, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I can just do that. I'll just go for that. And I tried it, and I was like, oh, well, this is nice. I'd been keto for, off and on a fair number of years at that point, and like I went carnivore, like pure carnivore for about 6 months, and it got into winter, and normally in the winter I kind of become this grumpy old man, and probably, and I guess that's probably seasonal affective disorder, like you know, our depression is grumpiness, and it didn't happen.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, like it's October and I haven't cried once. That's awesome. And it just kept going. And then at Christmas, of course, out comes the booze
Yeah. Yeah.
and all the fun, and they're like, oh, Colin's
The
gluten free,
treats.
so we'll make him some gluten free treats. And at that point, I mean, I still have ADHD. It's not, it doesn't go away. Like, oh, maybe I'm better now. So I eat all that stuff, and then like after Christmas, I'm like, why am I sad again?
Yeah.
and and it just sort of it clicked there, and I was like, I'm not able metabolically, at least, like there's clearly some
Mm. Mm.
pharmacological stuff going on with when I eat, you know
Yeah.
too many plants. And I can eat some berries, I can eat, a bit of that here and there. Potatoes seem to be no big deal, but if I go too many days outside of keto, and like eating too many plants, things get rough again.
Yeah.
It's predictable.
So, so
So
you've
metabolic
experienced
health.
that sort of, you said you've experienced the high of everything going well, and then you've over multiple periods, and I ask this because I've done the same myself. You
Mhm.
deviate and you watch the lows return, and then you
Yeah.
clean your act up and you go back to the highs and everything's good, and then back to the lows and highs and lows. And like I had that when finishing off my master's degree. We are just between a full-time job. My wife and I just had our first kid, and then I was doing master's degree part-time. There was no time to cook everything from
Yeah.
scratch. I thought, no, I know what I'm in for. I'm just going to eat for convenience sake because I have to spend the time getting the master's degree done. And yeah, goodness, I piled the weight back on. All the joint pain came back with vengeance.
Mm.
The grumpiness came back. Like, yeah, everything just went downhill. And then you sort of get out of that, and it's a bit difficult to get back on the wagon at first. Bit of a
Mhm.
mental struggle, but once you're back on and everything starts to clear up again, you're like, oh, shit, it's 100% the food.
Yeah.
They can't explain exactly what it is. And I think maybe there's a degree of truth to the genetic point of view. I think to a degree, genetics loads the gun, but you
Yeah.
need something to pull the trigger. And
Yeah.
the
100%.
species inappropriate food for me, 100% pulls the trigger.
Yeah. And I think you see that all across the board. I think there's definitely some, genetic susceptibility to it. Like you're just a little, some people are just a little bit more, they just run a little bit more this way or that.
Mm.
I mean, and you just stuff happens, right? Like you get sort of the trigger gets pulled, right? And you lose your hair, or the trigger gets pulled and you've got um I think Anthony Chafee like says he gets like horrendous back pain when he drinks coffee, right? Um
Yeah. Yeah, he talks
and
about DOMS, like
yeah,
delayed onset muscle soreness from training.
yeah,
Um, and like I struggle with that because I've thought many times, like I should just give up coffee. But in the same time, I'm like, it's the nectar of the gods. Like,
yes.
I don't know if I can do without that. Like, of all the vices I've given up to date,
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that one.
Yeah, I'll happily give up alcohol or
Yeah.
whatever, but like, but coffee, it's weird, eh? Um, I I don't need it. I can cut it out immediately. I don't get any withdrawal from caffeine or anything, but like I just really like it, and
Yeah.
it just has a different mouthfeel to tea, right? And
Oh, I can't do tea.
um, no, it
I
just
was weird. I used to do tea in my youth. My grandmother used to make
mm,
me tea all the time, and I was probably like nine, 9 or 10. And it's like someone flipped a switch. I did, like from that moment, I can't stand the taste of tea anymore. I now
mm.
like coffee. Like this weird flipped over, and I've never been able to come back. Like go visit friends or something, and they'll make tea and they don't have coffee, and you like politely take a sip it, and it's like, ugh, it's not nice.
Like, I think the only way I can really enjoy tea is if there's like four bags in there and it's been left for 5 minutes. So then like, oh, there's something in there I can.
Yeah, it's not just milky water.
Yeah.
Oh, many good stuff. So you've gone through what sounds like quite serious health struggles, which led you along a path of discovery. And you mentioned there that you tried veganism for a number of years, or I'm assuming it was a number of years. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and noticed your health deteriorate even more with that. And then gave paleo a try first. How long did you do paleo for before moving on to keto?
Um, it's probably I think 2009. I kind of came across that, and then I was living in Hong Kong at the time. And yeah, I think I do better with Asian food than I do with Western
Mm,
food because there's no bread.
yeah,
And so like I can eat almost everything there. Um, and I was younger, and we'd
we
go out
don't
and
go
do
down that road.
yeah, yeah. When we were young and free. But we go out on the trails in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong's an amazing city, right? Like
Mm,
I mean, it it's got you can be at a trailhead in like 15 minutes from anywhere in the city,
okay.
and that trail will take you as long as you want to go. There, you can walk for days
Mm,
on trails and never. It's just incredible. So I was burning loads of calories, count
yeah.
calories, whatever. Um, I know we know that doesn't work like that, but I was burning loads of food. I could eat pretty much whatever I wanted. Hong Kong's got it's much closer to the equator. Um, Skin was great. Asthma cleared up. Like in in Hong Kong, my asthma disappeared.
Yeah,
What's that?
that's yeah.
Probably vitamin D. But the more I noticed, the more I was sort of paying attention to what Rob was saying, like, oh yeah, do this. Um, the better I was able to do trails and the heavier I was able to lift. And I could just,
Mm,
it was like, wow, this is really something. And I kind of ran with that through to moving over here to the UK. And then I'd say I was probably just more or less paleo keto. Um, Keto didn't feel all that amazing doing CrossFit when I was doing that.
mm.
Definitely needed the sweet potatoes. I thought I needed the sweet potatoes. Um, and then I guess it was like, was it like 2018? Whenever Sean Baker went on Rogan.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
heard that,
yeah,
and that was like, oh, cool.
yeah.
And then and then Rob talked about it, and I was like, well, Rob doesn't think he's nuts. He says, and he likes to say where there's smoke, there's probably some fire. It was worth investigating. Try it for 30 days, see how you feel.
Mm,
Um, and I did, and I was like, oh God. Um, but I still hadn't convinced myself
yeah.
that
I
I
know
didn't
what you mean.
need fiber. What's going to happen to my poop? Is it just going to be like, I don't know if you ever did like lifting when you were keto and like, really heavy lifting when you've just gone keto and you got like, got a lot of you know a lot of coconut oil or whatever going on. You do not want to you know accommodate those toots while you're lifting because that's not good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so started doing that a little more, and then I'd say like 5 6 years ago. Well, yeah, 5 years ago. Um, I had a bit of a bout of like meh in the winter, and it was worse than it was usually was. And screw it, I'm just going to drop it. I'm just going to drop all of it. I'm going to go full on keto carnivore and just do it and see what happens. And I did, and um, yeah, it was amazing, just
Nice.
awesome. I stopped sunburning. Like it got around to May, and we went out to Barry Island, and I was like, I just forgot to put sun cream on, right? And just wearing, I always wear my hat because got no hair up there, and
Yeah,
uh,
no, suffer the
and
same melody.
pro, yeah, yeah. But I forgot to put sun cream on. Like, and any, I didn't put it. I put it on the kids, being the proper dad and stuff, and remember to put on my wife, and then and then they all went off to play, and I took a call because I was coaching, and then I just forgot about it.
Mm,
And we were there at Barry for like 8 or 9 hours, in beautiful sunshine in like May or whatever, and I didn't burn. Like I
that's
didn't
interesting.
burn.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what's the deal? Like, and then I started hearing, things like, oh, like people are not burning on carnivore. And I was like, how does that even work?
mm,
But there's some logical, I mean, yes, I'm about as white as you are, I think, but and
yeah,
like
yeah.
we probably don't have as much protection as some of our mates do, but like
Mm,
um well, it would be weird if an animal couldn't go out in its natural environment and not die.
yeah,
And so actually it kind of makes sense that maybe
yeah.
that's
Maybe that
supposed to be wrong.
from the sun all year.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
But
Growing up
yeah.
in South Africa, I used to tan, and I looked Indian,
Hmm.
like dark, dark, dark. I looked Indian, like
No,
looking at me from the
I have
back,
brothers like that.
you wouldn't be able to tell what race I was. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, being in the UK now, gecko white is the winter shade. It's just,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 My brother goes nut brown. It's really frustrating. He's the tall, handsome one. I'm the short, round,
yeah.
pasty one.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same. No, good stuff, good stuff. How profound was it for you to have the symptoms disappear?
Um, so I guess a couple of years ago, well, 2018, one of my best friends jumped off the balcony in Toronto. Um, and she was awesome, like super bright, like ridiculously bright. Um, so powerful, so brilliant, so making a difference in the world. And so loved,
Mm.
and she thought for some reason that that was the better option. And I think up until that point, I'd kind of, I mean, I've always wrestled with that. Um, I mean, 30 odd years, probably since I hit puberty, like pretty regular depressive instances, and yeah, a lot of suicidal ideation. Um, and I made a promise to a friend of mine that I'd never do that. But I kept feeling like I wanted to, over
Hmm.
the years. And and then when she went, um, you just like, I mean, a lot of people listening to this will probably have, know someone close to them who's taught themselves, and like when somebody does that, like they were in a lot of pain, but what's happened is that that pain has been taken from one person and it's been spread around everyone who loved them.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember my daughter was like 3 at the time, and like the day I found out, I was just like in floods of tears. I was beside myself, and it was her, just, you know, she just knew, like she just tried to give me a cuddle, and all kinds of tears, and she's like, "Daddy, don't be sad. I'm here.
Mm.
I'm here." And I think at that point, I was like, I got to do this. Like, I know it. I know, I know I can be free of this, and I got to stop messing around. Like, I got to stop trying out gluten now and again. Maybe it's
Yeah, to
better.
see you there. Yeah,
Um,
maybe
yeah,
today it's good. Yeah.
and it's just, and at that point, I was just like, this is like, mental health is so important, and it's our birthright.
Mm.
All of the thoughts and the feelings that we have, like it's like clouds, and behind those clouds there's blue sky, and you just have to wait, and blue sky comes back. And in my particular case, I just have to not be eating crap, and
Mm.
the blue sky comes back. And I owe it to my kids, I owe it to my students, I owe it to my family to
Yeah.
make sure that my blue sky has, is coming back on the regular. Like, everybody has a little few clouds here and there. That's
Mm.
just normal, right? My grandmother died. That was
Yeah.
awful. She's been, you know I'd known her for almost 50 years. you
Yeah.
know um
Yeah.
uh, you know eh, Life is difficult in many situations, and you don't need to make it harder by poisoning yourself.
Yeah.
um so that really clocked it for me. I know what I need to do if I'm ever, like, if it ever kind of, like, I have more than a couple of, like, boiler room, you know, um, then it's like, boilers are always breaking. Russia's going to, blow up the world. Rah, 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 rah. If I if I see it going that way, then all I have to do is turn around. But what am I eating? And,
Yeah.
oh, right, there we
Yeah.
go.
Get rid of that.
Clean that
Get
up,
rid of this.
and it's gone. And
Yeah.
I think, like, I mean, I've been meditating since I was 15. First with my psychiatrist when I was in high school, and then, like, I met um, a Buddhist priest who was working at my university, and I meditated there for years, Zazen style, and it's like, I'm good at meditation. Insofar as you can be good at meditation.
Mm.
I watch my mind all the time, and I've done, cognitive behavioral therapy. I know how it works. I know how to allow. I know how to breathe through things. I know all of that, and none of it. Um, I have to use it
Mm,
actively if I'm eating the wrong stuff.
yeah.
And if I'm not eating the wrong stuff, I don't need it at all.
So I guess Chris Palmer and Georgia Eads books, respectively, must have really been like a penny dropping for you then.
Oh God. It was so validating, right? Like, oh my God, that's exactly how what I've experienced. And like, yeah, I can't really explain how excited I was to see those two books come out. I was just like,
Mm.
because now I can see,
Yeah, yeah.
see.
And so for the audience, for those who haven't come across it, we're talking about Dr. Chris Palmer and Dr. Georgia Eid, both very well respected psychiatrists,
Yeah,
and both of whom have made the connection between diet and mental health and done an exploration into why your metabolic health impacts your mental health, and then unpack that to such a degree that they've actually sort of spearheaded an entire new field within psychiatry called metabolic psychiatry.
yeah,
And it's mind blowing. It explains why mental illnesses are, in fact, a mitochondrial dysfunction in the brain and not genetics, not a malady, just bad luck, a
yeah,
yeah, it's not just a tough hand you've been dealt. Yes, it may indeed have been a tough hand you were dealt that led you down a path, but there's things that can be done that profoundly change the outcomes.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, I mean, I teach maths and I coach, a life coach, and
Mm,
it doesn't really overlap all that much. But I'm very open at work and with the struggles I've had and my ADHD and stuff. And I love the fact that I can point to studies
mm,
that demonstrate that a ketogenic diet changes the mitochondrial function, and the change in the mitochondrial function changes how you feel
yeah,
on the regular. And it's just like this. You don't have to be anxious. You don't like a
mm,
little bit of anxiety. That's normal. We're evolved to be, looking out for things that are potentially damaging for us, right? But you don't have to be anxious about
yeah,
everything. You don't have to be depressed.
yeah.
You don't have to be crazy. You can be well. Um, and and this is like it's it's just like,
Yes.
do you know that song? Like, I can see clearly now. The
Yeah,
rain is
yeah,
gone.
yeah.
I can see clearly now. It's the depression is gone song. It's
Mm,
wellness is here,
yeah.
and those books for me are. I mean, I recommend them to everyone. Um, it, it's like, yeah, like if I could have read that when I was a kid, you know
Oh, mate, yeah,
how
yeah. Could have made
wow,
big differences. Yeah, I climbed into alcohol. That was my thing. And I hid my insecurities and my anxieties and everything in partying. And you sort of, depending on where you caught me, depended on which version of Ricky you got, because I can be the outspoken, charismatic, get along with anyone and everyone guy. And alcohol really brought that out in me. And I liked that. It was the shutting down of the prefrontal cortex and the self
mhm,
inhibitions. If I could get rid of that and stop trying to self regulate everything because I do it to an insane degree, um, then conversation would flow and you'd feel better and you'd get along and stuff. But you're poisoning yourself at the same time. And then you'd sit with a hangover
yeah.
the next day that just like you, oh, I'm never going to drink again that evening. Oh man, yeah. No, it's weird to think back. And again, like hindsight is 2020, so it's easy to think back and go, "Oh, I would have like done this differently, done that differently." But the road we've
Yeah,
been on is the road that has formed us how we are now.
exactly.
So I guess the best we can do is to take this information, but to make it available to people, and hopefully it'll help them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always say it to my clients and my students, like, you are in exactly the right place right here, right now. Exactly the right place. You're here to change the world in some way or other. And there have been no mistakes.
Yeah,
It's
no, it
all
makes sense.
supposed
Yeah.
to happen just the way it is. And I mean, it sounds really fatalistic. My grandmother would probably say it, you're being too Calvinist. um, kind of believe in laws of cause and reaction, cause and effect.
Hmm.
And I think it is really important to be telling people about this, you know, um, because there's so much suffering that could be alleviated
Yeah,
if people just knew what we know
yeah,
now,
yeah.
and could let go of these ideas of, like, you just have to work harder. You just have to
I
look
came
out
across a
more.
saying. I don't remember who said it. I credit them properly. Give me a second. I can't remember. It was on LinkedIn, and I swear it was this morning, but it was to the tune of, and I'm paraphrasing. If hard work was the sole requirement for success, the donkey would own the farm.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I hope that you are enjoying the discussion so far. I apologize for interrupting the episode, but I just want to take a moment to talk to you about the work that I do with Zinzino. Zinzino are a brilliant Scandinavian biotech and life sciences firm. Their concept of test-based personalized nutrition is absolutely revolutionary, and they are the pioneers of test-based personalized nutrition. I use their products and solutions myself and my family. In fact, we use multiple of their products. And Zinzino has been instrumental in helping me identify that I was omega-3 deficient, horrendously so, and to get my omega-3 deficiency resolved. You see, their at-home tests give you the data and insights needed to inform your dietary strategy to see whether you have any key essential nutrient deficiencies or imbalances that need addressing. And where you do, they have targeted supplementation stacks that are personalized to you according to your age, sex, and body weight, which means they are most effective to get you back to optimal. This isn't about just avoiding deficiency. This is about getting you back to optimal. And that's a complete and utter game changer. So if you would like to know more, I have linked a short survey in the episode description. Complete the survey. It asks you some simple questions about your health goals and desires. It takes less than a minute to complete. And what I'll give you off the back of that is a personalized product recommendation out of Zinzino solution catalog, telling you which I think best suit your desires and needs and why. I'll then also personally reach out to you to see if there's any questions or queries that I can answer. Let me take the guesswork out of your health journey.
And that's obviously not how it works. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and people struggle with it as well. I have many conversations with people and sort of like, look, you're not a universal digester. Like we've figured out ways to work around our digestive limitations, and I've got a chapter about it in my book.
Oh yeah.
uh,
It's a printed copy. Yeah.
yeah, it's the proof copy. So yeah, um, so in the chapter I call "Gaming the System," I'm trying to explain and lay out for people that we come from a place of where you struggled to survive, and the struggle to survive played hand in hand with our ingenuity, and we are by far the most intelligent creature on the planet and the most adaptive. And what we learned to do was how to make inedible things less toxic and more palatable, because we needed them to avoid starvation. But along the line, in doing that, we've been doing it for so long that we now assume and accept that that is food. And we no longer recognize that, in fact, we're taking something that is inedible to us, that is bad for us in and of itself, and we're doing things to it to make it palatable, to make it edible. And maybe it's not the thing we should be eating. Potatoes, for example. You go munch down some raw potato. Tell me how you feel. You're not going to feel good. You've got to cook that thing and you've got to process it properly. Rice, grains, like so many plants. There's so few plants, especially wild plants, that you could eat raw.
Yeah.
So
There's
many
almost nothing.
plants, like almost nothing. Like you go get lost in the bush, you can't just go and pick stuff and eat stuff, because unless you've been educated and you know exactly what you're looking for, you're going to poison yourself.
Yeah.
But we've spent so long. Well, I suppose it's the perfect marriage of three things. So we've through agriculture learned how to breed and genetically alter plants to make them more of what we want. We've learned ways to cook and to process food to make it more palatable and available to us to use as food. And then we've built industry around this. So it's no longer you and I out gathering and hunting and getting our own food. There's now industries that exist purely for the purpose of providing us with food, and we pay them money for that. And those three things are amalgamated together to form the basis of what people think they should be eating today. And it's just so far removed from what our physiology actually needs.
Yeah, because we modified all those things, but we didn't modify ourselves.
No. I mean, there are some adaptations that we've got. We now produce, is it amylase?
Amylase, yeah.
Amylase in the mouth. We didn't used to do that, and they can trace that back. I can't remember how far back it was. It was something like 6,000 years, 5,000 years, something like that.
Yeah, it's not. It's only a few thousand. Yeah.
Started producing amylase in the mouth instead of just in the stomach. So that's an adaptation to the higher intake of carbs. But when you look at what carbs do to your blood sugar, it still spikes your blood sugar above what is healthy. And then you have to have a severe insulin response to bring that back down, because the excess blood sugar is toxic in the blood. So that adaptation cannot be advantageous. It's not because carbs are good for you. I think it's the body's way of trying to process it, digest it, and get it out of you quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard Michael Rose. I don't know if I think we've talked about him before. Talking about like the about where evolutionary pressure sort of tails off, and sort of like after reproductive age, basically whatever reproductive your fitness is sort of set at that point, and then there isn't really any evolutionary adaptation past say 30, 30, 35, your reproductive age. And so like what he noted that was that typically younger people can handle like this stuff, right? Because it's been around, right? After the younger die off and everything, we had to find other sources of food, and all those poor delicious mammoths were gone. And we probably didn't actually kill them off. They just sort of, it was climate change, and a variety of interesting theories around that. But we've had that brief period of time to be able to still reproduce, and so all the kids who couldn't, eat a whole grain biscuit and not get sick and not be able to have kids, they all died. and so but all the people who could do that when they were young, but then not when they were old, well, they survived, and that's who we
Mm.
are. And you think, what was the reproductive window in the wild? Well, it's around 16 to say 35,
Mm.
maybe, right? And after that, there's just no evolutionary protections, and so what you see is all of these, the thickening of the arteries, and from the elevated insulin. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter before you're 35, right? Because whatever, I
Yeah.
got thickening arteries, yay. I can still have kids, and I can still thrive and raise them, and then having thickening arteries when you're 45 or 50 and 60, leads to sort of heart
Yeah.
disease and stuff, but you're already done, right? The
Yeah.
the
Well, once
pressure's
the
on.
elixir of youth starts to wear off, then
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And like, yeah, and I think, like you say, it still isn't healthy to have those elevated blood glucose, and kids do struggle with it. It isn't good for
Mm.
them. But they do seem to be able to tolerate it better, than we are,
Mm.
well, as we get older. And then
Yeah. I think it's a
what do you,
buildup of toxicity, to be honest. I think that
yeah,
it takes a long time for the chicken to come home to roost. But once it does, it's usually because it's too late to reverse it.
yeah, yeah. And I think, like, I mean, think about insulin thickening your arteries, because it's just a big blanket anabolic steroid, right? Keep it elevated,
Mm.
everything grows,
Yeah.
and all the things that you don't want to grow. And um, once your chickens are coming home to roost, you're like,
Yeah.
you built up all that toxicity and had all that time exposed to things that aren't ideal for you, and
Mm.
then you're, oh, just got cancer, or, oh, just got heart disease,
Mm.
and you
Yeah.
think it came on in a year or something like that, just because you got old. Well,
Uh,
probably not.
no, it's probably decades worth of inappropriate lifestyle ahead of that. But yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. But people don't like to hear that.
No, it's incredibly inconvenient, isn't it? I
Mm.
mean, what are we going to do about our bake off and things like that? You know? And my wife loves baking cakes, and so I mean, I do see the struggle and the difficulty in it, but at the same time, like, and I think, I don't know, for some people it doesn't seem to matter quite as much,
Mm.
but if you've got any kind of, like, proclivity for developing heart disease or mental health disorders or anything like that, like, I think it's those people that really need to be,
Yeah,
like, super careful about it. Like, you really need to take stock and, like,
yeah,
okay, hear it, and let's get busy, because you know
yeah,
your kids want you around, right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Your friends and your family, they don't want you going. They don't want you
No,
checking
for
in
sure,
and jumping
for
up and
sure.
talking to you.
Father-in-law passed in 2021, and yeah, it was way too soon.
Yeah.
Way too soon.
How,
Like,
how old
yeah,
was he?
he was 72, I think.
Okay.
But my wife, like, what was she? She was about 34 at the time. And even at that stage, like that's way too early in your life. Like, it's devastating. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
hard.
yeah, but the problem is that many people, in fact, the vast majority, to be honest, because this is the way that we're brought up and indoctrinated, we treat our health reactively. And what I mean by that is
Mhm.
we assume everything is perfect until
Yeah.
it's not. And only when something goes wrong, then we have to go and outsource our well-being to an expert who's going to try and diagnose what's happened and then give us a chemical to help us with the symptoms that we're experiencing. It's
Yeah.
it's a diabolical system. Where with anything else, I mean, any responsible adult gets their car checked, gets it serviced, MOT'd, like checks their tires. so on and so forth. Every now and then you check the oil when you're filling up. Like you're doing diagnostic work as you go because you don't want to wait for it to go wrong because you know it's going to be bloody expensive and inconvenient to fix. But with your health, nah, it's all fine until like I feel good. I don't need to pay any attention to that. Why would I need to worry about something that hasn't happened yet?
Still healthy.
Mm. Yeah, no, people are weird, man. People are weird. But in saying that, I think there's not many positives to have come from the pandemic, except that
Yeah.
health awareness has gone through the roof.
Hmm.
Like general health awareness amongst the population has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And the people have woken up to the fact that, holy crap, I need to look after myself because something can come along and kick my ass if I don't.
Yeah. I think as well, I do think we came out of that with maybe more of a glimmer of an understanding that like we're in a bit of a crisis of meaning, right?
Mm,
For life, because like everybody was so, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a banker or whatever.
mm,
Like, no, what do you do? Like, who are you? And people didn't know, and so there was like this. It was kind of like I mean, it's the wrong word, but like an emotional or spiritual kind of crisis of health, right? And
mm,
then this physical crisis of health, and like I think it's the tandem, and I do think people are waking up to it more. Like we're doing what we're doing ain't working,
mm.
and and we need a different way to look at it, and like my life has to mean something more
Mm.
than my job,
Yeah.
and my my being, my health actually matters, and I can't just eat Twinkies and
Yeah.
Cheetos, and because something's going to come along and actually, you know, maybe if I'm lucky, kill me. But if I'm not lucky, it's going to leave me with long COVID and like you
Mm.
know cardiomyopathy or something like that, and like and yet if you were metabolically healthy, it wouldn't have,
Yeah.
and if you were metabolically healthy, you wouldn't have this necessarily this crisis of meaning because actually you can see clearly,
Mm.
and things would just work, and you'd be able to like let things be, and just be a human being again, rather than like trying to constantly search for what it is that your purpose here is, and like
Mm.
blindly eat your way into
Yeah.
it, because it's like I kind of think it's a little bit like buffering, like what's her name? Uh her name. Anyway, a coach I follow talks about this thing where like you're basically not paying attention to the thing that you need to pay attention to.
Mm.
You know that you should be paying attention to it. Your body knows, your mind knows, and you're just not willing to accept the feeling that's going to come of it. And she calls it buffering. So you buffer with food. Like I'm going to eat these emotions, this
Yeah.
anxiety, this worry that I have that who am I if I'm not my job?
Mm.
And you eat it, right? A lot of
Now,
people eat it.
the interesting thing with that, go back, where would we go to? Let's take the late 1800s, for example. That wasn't a thing. You couldn't do it.
No,
You couldn't do it.
there
Early
just wasn't anything there
1900s,
to.
you couldn't do it
Yeah.
because there was nothing hyperpalatable to do that with. Right.
Well, the only thing was drink, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the people
Yeah.
drank, but they couldn't do it with food.
Mm.
And so what we're getting into for the audience is we've been, how would I frame this? the processed food industry cottoned on to the fact that you have two hunger drive systems. You've got what I'll call homeostatic hunger, which is governed by your hunger and satiety, the hormone signaling, and it's triggered by the body's need for energy balance and essential nutrition. So you will get genuinely hungry and you will crave a particular thing when the body is telling you that you need a particular thing.
Mm.
Your other system, your hedonic system, is a hormonal endocrine response system. Endorphin response system, where they figured out that the right blend of fat, carbohydrate, and salt provided an endorphin response, the same as cocaine does, the same as other hard class A drugs do. And you get this endorphin response and you get a bunch of dopamine and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel motivated and it detracts from whatever you were experiencing before.
Yeah.
And so you end up using food for that feeling and not for nourishment. And if the average person is honest with themselves and were to take a week and journal everything that they ate and when they ate and why they were eating, I would go so far as to argue that 80% of their consumption is emotional. It's distraction, entertainment, or pleasure. It's not the need for nutrition.
Yeah.
But that
we
wasn't
often say like it's the plants that are like plants are only medicine or entertainment, right?
Mm.
Like,
yeah,
and because it just wasn't possible beforehand, like to get that to put that screen in front of your eyes to sort of avoid feeling that all the feelings that all the feelings of life, right? You couldn't mask it before, and now you can, because you can, like, ice cream and Cheetos, man, that makes grandma's passing tolerable, right? Or or the fact that I hate my job, and I'm good, right? It's incredible.
No, it's mad. And I was heavily guilty of it. Like I would sit and eat, and I'd always describe myself as someone who's always hungry. Like always, like, no, I wasn't physiologically hungry. I didn't need energy. I got weeks of energy on me. Like my body's obviously not telling me, Ricky, you need to eat. You're about to starve. I just needed distraction. I was addicted to the need for the distraction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty. I mean, it almost feels nefarious. I know it's just sort of like, people sell whatever they can sell because that's the system we work in. But like, it does feel a little bit nefarious
Well,
because they know
I
exactly
think
what
it
they're doing.
is because you can track it back to it's right around about the time where tobacco was going through the courts, big tobacco, and getting completely lambasted because it was no longer deniable that smoking was causing cancer, heart disease, so on and so forth. And a lot of big tobacco went into big processed food. And you can track that change. And with that change, the addictive model, which was tobacco, became the addictive model of processed food with hyperpalatable foodstuffs. That coincided that change.
Yeah. And you can pretty much see the metabolic health of Western nations like decline from that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, ooh, Cocoa Puffs. Like,
yeah. All of a sudden, you've got a driver to eat that has nothing to do with actually needing to eat.
Yeah.
And all the marketing around it, I mean, like breakfast being the most important meal of the day. Like, I remember the first time this was explained to me, and I like the penny dropping and sitting and going, the name is literally break fast. Like, it was the meal you used to break the fast. It wasn't the regular, most important set meal of the day. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember reading back in university, like an account of some anthropologists who went to work with a group in the Amazon. Was it the Amazon? Maybe not the Amazon. Maybe it might have been Indonesia or something. Anyway, they were hunting pigs, and like the men would wake up, crack of dawn, and they just say bye to everyone and wander off, and they'd go hunting pigs. And he was like, they didn't eat anything, and they just got up and they just went walking, and they just walked for like 15 miles, and just you know tracking pigs through the forest, and then like they didn't eat anything until they got home. They were like,
Yeah.
they just caught something and brought it back, and then like they literally only ate dinner.
Yeah.
That was the men, and I don't know that there was much. I didn't see in the account anything about the women, but like these guys just got up and they went hunting. They didn't like get up and like roll over and eat some,
Yeah.
or the most important meal of the day. They went and caught the most important meal of the day, and they brought it back in late afternoon, and they shared it with everybody, and they ate it.
Yeah.
And that was the most important meal of the day. So I always thought that was kind of funny because like, especially when you meet like second, I teach at a secondary school, and like a lot of those kids they're just not really hungry in the morning. And oh no, you should eat your breakfast. Well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you're not
if you're not hungry, don't
ready
eat.
food yet.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. It is a funny thing, isn't it? It's like a manufactured meal, like a culturally crafted meal,
Yeah.
rather than
I tried
something
to
that's
do that in
actually.
the book again. I came at it wanting to say, stop using food for anything other than just pure nutrition. And the more I looked into it, because I wanted to sort of backward engineer and find where the point was where we flipped from using food for nutrition to using food for socializing, um, interacting with people, distracting ourselves, entertaining ourselves. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't untie the two. We've been doing it for so long that it's become culturally entwined. I mean, the basis of cultures is our cuisine. We've been doing it for that long. It's our oldest ceremony for interacting with others.
Yeah. It's because it's always that meal at the end where like you come
Yeah.
together, and the hunters and the gatherers come together, and they bring it all together, and then they basically just hang out and chat and sing and
Yeah.
dance, and like
But now
that's
the people who've got money to make off it want you doing that 3, 4, 5 times a day because they've got money to make off of it.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's mad. It's mad. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, Colin, in your work as a life coach, how much, like, at what point did you start working as a life coach, and how much of your own journey is translated into that?
Had a little crisis of confidence in the teaching profession when I moved to Britain. That's probably not surprising to you. um, I very much enjoyed my teaching career right up until I got here, and I was like, "Why is it going?" Like, they don't respect anything. They don't even want to be here. They call me names. I quit for a bit, um, and my wife is like, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you could apprentice with my uncle or something like that, and be a builder. And I'm a bit clumsy. I'm distractible. I'm not. I'm not building material. Like, oh, I was supposed to put it over there. Um, I'd always been a good listener, and like, kind of. I'm going to say it again, like kind of spiritually inclined. I'm very interested in people's experience of life.
Yeah.
And it just a universe or something just reached out and invited me to a seminar. And I went and did like a 2-day seminar with the coaching academy. And I was like, oh
Cool.
my God, this is actually a thing. Like you can kind of, people pay people to do this.
Mm.
And I've been doing this forever. So I trained, got a diploma, did, you know, very fast apparently. Got a distinction in that. Like it, um, it was just it felt like what I was supposed to do.
Mm.
And this is sort of along the kind of coming up to that transition. I guess it was like the year after my daughter was born, and it just sort of felt like this new thing, that just seemed to fit. Um, and so I just went all in, hired my own coach, and that talking, the back and forth, questioning, being able to ask people things that no one will ever ask them,
Mm.
point things out that no one will ever point things out that they need to hear,
Mm-hmm.
that level of insight and honesty that you sort of bring to the table there with that. Um, Felt a bit like a shaman,
Mm-hmm.
like a shaman kind of, because I was just changing people's perspective of their own lives, and it wasn't anything like, it wasn't like Tony Robbins and you'll build a massive company and like, blah, blah, blah. It's more like you find yourself,
Mm.
you discover more of who you are and why you're here, and that I love that. um and very early on, I worked with a lot of people who were quite uncomfortable with the with sharing that they are getting any help with
Mm-hmm.
their thinking and stuff, and so like my baseline there was became like, well, this is going to be confidential and private and all that sort of thing, and it just felt good, you know
Mm-hmm.
um and I've helped people save marriages and reconnect with estranged children, like kids and adult kids and stuff, and like, and I've helped people grow their businesses, and you know many millions, and like in being coached myself, like my marriage is beautiful. Like
Mm.
I don't think I ever quite understood how lucky I was and how blessed I was, if that's the right word,
Yeah.
um, and how to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the coaching, it's sort of, I love doing that, and I love being coached, and I love coaching. And like when both of my kids went back, like went to school, I started feeling like, oh, I'm not doing enough of this. I'm not reaching enough people, and I thought maybe it's time to go back to a bit of teaching. So I started part-time, and I thought I'm going to teach maths because, well, I'm good at it, and um, most people think it's hard.
Well, yeah, the math, I think I would have been more proficient at reading hieroglyphics in high school than what I was at
Yeah,
mathematics because I failed that on my backside.
but so it's the perfect thing, right? Um, it's the perfect forge to develop character and an
Mm.
understanding of your own inner voice, because the main thing that stands in people's way, and especially when you're young, right? Like you are the thing that's in your own way, and if you start to see what you're saying to yourself and how you're thinking about things, you don't actually need a transformation in circumstances. All you have to do is start seeing things differently.
Mm-hmm.
and start talking to yourself differently and accepting that, sometimes you feel like shit and those clouds will pass on and that blue sky is there.
Mm.
And I thought, right, well, I can do this here. I can do this in a school. And so I stopped teaching and I started coaching math. So, but
Okay.
I sort of like teach maths with a coaching bent. I coach through maths, I suppose is the way that part of my work life is.
Nice.
And yeah, it just feels like the right thing to be
Mm.
doing, you here I am making a difference, helping people see themselves differently, helping kids craft character, um, and yeah, loving it. And like,
That's awesome.
I'm very open about being a carnivore, like I
Nice.
eat this way because
You must
I
get
feel
looked at
better.
like you've got three heads. I get that often.
Oh yeah, yeah. But like, everybody knows that Mr. Walk is Mr. Walk only eats meat. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? Like, and I'm the only teacher who can do a pistol.
Nice. Yeah.
Even the
Yeah.
PE teachers can't do pistol squats. It's like, but yeah, that's kind of it's. I don't take on that many clients these days because it's like I got room for about 6 or 7 on a regular basis, and
Okay.
I don't want it eating into my family time anymore
Mm.
because time is short. We've all got 4,000 weeks or something like that, as Oliver Burkeman likes to say,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got 2,300 done already. So
Mm.
I'm going to make sure that everybody that I love gets enough of those weeks.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I
That
like.
that that is a weird one,
Love.
hey. And as I approach my 40th this year, you start to think about stuff like that a lot more. It starts to become a lot
Mm,
more profound. And I can remember sort of, oh, where will we go? We'll go to 1998 first and figuring out, oh, I'm going to turn 13. Like, holy crap, like, what is it going to be like when I turn 18? And like, you've got like so much more time ahead of you than what you have behind you. And you're just wide eyed and full of potential. And then
yeah.
all of a sudden, like 2 weeks go by and you're turning 40. And you're like, what the hell just happened? Who's it? Where's all this grey stuff coming from? That must
Yeah.
be the wife and the kids. Like,
Yeah. It's incredible.
oh, but yeah, no, and
And
then you
yeah.
realize that it's actually good. Like it's
Yeah.
good to have an appreciation for your mortality and to take account of the amount of time that you potentially have left and the impact that you can have with that time and what you're doing. Like it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing to be thinking about.
No, I think it's powerful. I
Mm,
think it's so powerful. You know, we're afraid of the idea of dying because we make the mistake. We have this fantasy that it's never going to end, right?
mm,
Just in some way that this is never going to end. But your day ends. You got 24 hours. That day is gone. You know, um, kids are at home until they're 18 or so. Like once they hit 18, that's 90% of the time that you will ever spend with your children. They're gone.
mm,
And people just don't like they if you don't accept that limitation, like you never really fully appreciate what
mm.
you have in the moment. I
Yeah,
don't think you can, you
yeah,
know. I mean, I'd love to live longer. Hopefully we will get to do that. But like,
yeah,
it, if you don't, like, who's it said? It's not the years in the life that matter. It's the life in the years.
hmm,
And if you don't live like that, then your kids, your wife, the people that you care about they can't understand how important they are to you.
yeah,
And it's such a powerful gift to give somebody, you know, that understanding of like how deeply you care, you know. And I think, just as a society, not only do we need to eat more meat and less crap, we need to make sure that the people we love like know it, and that we make sure that we've built experiences with them where we're not like, oh my back, I can't run. I want to run with my kids. I want to climb mountains. I want to adventure with them so that they remember,
Yeah.
growing up as being fun and a place of like, where they were loved.
No, I think that's an important sort of thing that you're touching on there. I just want to expand on it a bit because like the theme of the podcast is metabolic health, and we've spent a good amount of time talking about metabolic health and nutrition and stuff like that. But I want people to appreciate why metabolic health is important, and I try to unpack this a bit in my book. And the bottom line that I came to was that your metabolic health is sort of your health at the cellular level. Like we're talking about all the functions and mechanisms of the individual cell and the components that make it up, and them being able to do their job properly because they get the right biological input and materials to do the things that they're supposed to do. And if you're enabling the individual cell to do the things it's supposed to do, you're enabling the organ to do the thing it's supposed to do. You're enabling the system that the organ is part of to do its job, so on and so forth, until you get the whole. The reason that is important to your health is when you understand what health is your ability to, in fact, I'll just read it from the book because that's a nice little plug for the book and then I'm not misquoting it. There we go. So health is our body. So this is how I define metabolic health. And it's our body's ability to generate and process the energy and basic organic materials needed to facilitate the proper functioning of our bodily systems as required for critical life processes, which are essential not only to sustaining our life, but also enabling our continued physical, emotional, mental, and social ability to cope within our environments. And so the point being, looking after your metabolic health gives you the very best platform from which to be you in your family, in your community, in your workplace, like to cope and do and be part of life. We're social creatures. We're not isolated little amoebas that do our own little thing. We're part of this big wide network. And your health is the fundamental linchpin that enables you to either be a contributing member of that society or not.
Yeah. Your health is what allows your kids to have a dad. It's what allows your wife to have a husband that isn't a burden and, is a positive, powerful force in that family,
Yeah.
It's it's funny that I wonder if it's something about that 40, you hit 40 and then it sort of opens up, isn't it?
I had this conversation with Toby earlier in the week, Toby Swallow, who you and I both know. And I said to him, like, I had my sort of health crisis and started down the metabolic health journey early on in my 30s. And at the time, I thought I was unlucky, like having bad health in my early 30s, which wasn't great, obviously. But in hindsight, looking at it, like that's actually been a blessing because by the time I'm approaching my 40th birthday, like I've learned so much and I've been able to correct a lot. I'm hopefully, knock on wood, I'm going to avoid all the pitfalls that the average person has because talking to coaches, and I'm sure yourself as a life coach, you'll see this as well. the average age of a client for a nutritionist, a diet coach, life coach, metabolic health coach, it's people in their 50s. Like people who've passed that midlife point, had their midlife crisis, still can't figure out what's going wrong and why it's going wrong, and then turn for help. Like, there's something weird. There's something weird about human nature where you have to hit that point of crisis before you listen.
Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, you're familiar with the hero's journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the hero refuses the call, refuses the call until something drops and he can't ignore it.
Mm.
And then the journey begins.
Yeah.
And I kind of think this is a little bit like that,
Mm.
you know, like I I always like to look at the things that happen in my life as gifts, regardless of what kind of, like my friend's passing. It's a tragedy. What a horrible waste, Oh my God, she had so much light to give. Um, and there's a gift in it. And the gift in it is that wake up,
Mm.
wake up, you know. And I think, that was like 40 for me.
Mm.
Um, and it's something switches.
Yeah.
And now now is the game, right? The
Yeah.
game starts here.
Yeah.
This is where the story really begins. And I think we're seeing that more and more. And like Toby, I mean, he's an amazing guy. Like,
Yeah.
And he's got it exactly right. Like somewhere in our 40s and 50s, something happens, and you just, like you say, like some crisis happens, and
Yeah,
you
the
just can't get
scales
it
fall
together.
from your eyes, and suddenly
Yeah,
you're able to see, like, oh, hang on a second, yeah, like, need to
yeah,
fix something. Yeah,
because we're half done. We got to
yeah,
get busy.
yeah, 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 no, for sure. Um, you lived in Hong Kong for a while, and I want to ask something, and I'm curious about. Yeah, how much meat do they eat?
Eat meat all the time. It's hilarious. I mean, they also eat all kinds of other stuff, right?
Mm,
But
yeah, yeah,
like the Hong Kongian are comparatively wealthy. They're. I don't think I ever saw a vegetarian restaurant there. Like, it's
You mean
there's
it's not the
like
blue zone that they make it out to be? And everyone's
it
running
is the
around.
blue zone, but the blue zone is like the um oh, the blue zones. Oh my God. Like, oh no, the Okinawans don't eat pork. They don't eat pork in everything. They cook pork once a week and then they eat the pig all week long. They just only cook it once, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because you only need to cook an end. But no, they eat loads of meat. Like, I had no difficulty finding, chicken, pork, kangaroo, like
that's a weird one.
seafood coming out the wazoo. Like, it's a friend of mine's dad owned a seafood restaurant
Mm,
in Sai um, and we go out there every once every couple of months or whatever, and like as a staff. And I worked at a Japanese restaurant, a Japanese school, and we just, like, all 50 of us would go out there, and it was dish after dish of seafood, and
wow.
and suckling pig, and like it was easily, per person, 400 or 500 grams of meat in that one meal, of various kinds,
Yeah.
like a couple of scallops, like a bunch of
Mm,
shrimp, or prawns or whatever, and like a sea bream, grouper, whatever. And it was just like dish after dish, and
mm.
it's all meat. Yes, there's some,
Yeah.
there's
There's a bit
always
of
rice
garnish.
involved, and but it's yeah, but basically garnish, right?
Yeah.
Nobody eats the garnish. They eat the suckling pig, you know. They sort of hold it over the rice bowl, and they're not eating the rice so much. It's like the rice catches the sauce, and like it's kind of nice later. But it's like, you know, you put the meat on the rice, and then you eat the meat, and then you put something else on the rice, and then you eat that, and then eventually the bowl of rice goes away. But like it's it's meat all
Yeah,
the
they're,
time.
they're, they're
It's
not
awesome.
running around as bloody vegetarians and vegans like that.
No,
That's for sure.
no.
But
And when
yeah,
they do eat like tofu, there's this stuff called stinky tofu, and
oh,
it's basically fermented. And like all of
always
the
heard.
sort of vegetarian, yeah,
Yeah,
it's awful. It tastes amazing, but if you have you ever smelled durian fruit?
no,
Oh, it's horrendous. It smells like, you know, uh, it's like a bag full of sports equipment that's been
okay.
lying out in the sun. Um, and, well, oh, and you're not allowed to take it in airports and stuff like that. And stinky tofu is a bit like that. It's just like it's revolting, but it tastes amazing. Um, but you're not actually eating much in the way of the actual tofu because it's fermented.
Hmm,
You're basically eating bacteria. But
yeah,
yeah, they eat a lot of meat. It's pretty funny.
that stuff strikes me as the direct opposite of like vanilla essence. Because I can't be the only person alive who, in their youth, smelt the bottle of vanilla essence and was like, "Oh, that."
Yeah, it smells amazing, but
It does not
yeah,
taste good.
this is the opposite. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's like smells awful. It smells like somebody's got leprosy on their feet or something like that, and and then oh, it's delicious. How is that even possible?
yeah, that
Uh,
does. It shouldn't be right. Like,
yeah, it's so gross. Mongkok's like there's a couple of streets in Mongkok where they have it on in the open air market, and you just like
yeah, you know when you're approaching the store. Oh, that's good.
yeah,
Colin, we could carry on for ages. I'll
I reckon
definitely
we
be
could.
having
Yeah.
you back on the show at some point. The one thing I like to ask my guests to close it off is if there's one thing that you would like to really resonate with the audience from today's discussion, what would that one thing be for you?
Given you've made it this far into the episode, I can only assume that human metabolic health is a subject you find fascinating and engaging, and it resonates with you. And that's absolutely awesome because we're very much alike in that regard. And because of that, I want to take a moment to talk to you about potentially becoming a Zinzino independent partner in the same way that I have. You see, Zinzino have tremendous opportunities available for independent partners, meaning people who decide that they don't just want to be a customer, but instead want to use the concept of test-based personalized nutrition to benefit their own health, to take the guesswork out of their own health journeys in the same way that I have, but then to build that user story, to build that testimony of the differences that's made in our health journeys, and use that to market Zinzino's product, to market the concept of test-based personalized nutrition in the exact way that I'm busy doing right now, and bring on board other customers and other partners to grow the distribution network. And in doing so, you get handsomely rewarded through their compensation scheme, which is one of the best that I've seen in the industry. So if you'd like to explore setting up a side revenue, whether it be something that you only do a couple hours a week or something that you put a little bit more effort into and build into a full-fledged career, or anything in between, get in touch and let's have a talk about the opportunity and how this might be the right fit for you, not only to take the guesswork out of your personal health journey, but to also build you additional income streams that help to improve your financial situation and the possibilities for you and your family.
If you have any kind of mental health issue whatsoever, um, two things. One, you're you've been worthy since the day you were born.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with you. the clouds will part, the sun will come back. And if you want it to happen more reliably and regularly, go keto, go keto carnivore. I mean, if you have to be vegetarian, just be keto vegetarian, but like go keto carnivore.
Yeah.
There's been nothing that's touched my well-being as deeply as this has. Not all of the understanding I have about how minds work and how coaching works, and none of that holds a candle to just not feeling awful. Nothing holds a candle to it like that.
Awesome.
And that's what I'd say.
That's brilliant. The only thing I'd add there, for those who, like myself, are very inquisitive and want to know why, is go get Brain Energy by Chris Palmer, or Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Georgia Ede, or both. Brilliant reads. And they'll explain in good detail why what you've just suggested is the best course of action.
I'd say even if you're not curious, just go read the damn book.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Colin, it's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure, buddy. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll catch you again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Next time you're in Bristol, we'll meet up for a cheeky coffee.
I'll be there next Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the episode. I hope that you found the conversation meaningful and informative, and I hope that it has empowered you with some tools and insights that you can take to tweak and improve your own lifestyle approach in pursuit of optimal metabolic health outcomes. If you've enjoyed the episode, and if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd like you to do me the kindness of please subscribing to the channel, giving it a like, maybe even giving it a share. Help to raise awareness and get the podcast in front of as many viewers as possible, because it is my passion to try and help as many people as possible to understand more of the nuance around metabolic health and how to tweak their lifestyle in pursuit of optimal outcomes. Also, if you have any constructive feedback, things that you think I could improve on, any critiques, any criticisms, please do feed them back. I give you my solemn word that I will take them seriously, and I will, to the best of my ability, work to improve and to give you a more refined and more targeted product as a result of your feedback. So I will take it seriously, and I'll do what I can to improve the show. But again, thank you very much for watching. Keep thriving.